What's up, Fit Fam? What's up, Facebook, Instagram? We're going live today. If you are watching this not live on YouTube, I still want to welcome you. We got some new guys. I'm sure there's someone here watching for the first time. I'm Coach Russo. This is our team. You will be fit forever. The goal being, guess what? To be fit forever. I know, shocking. Sarcasm. Anyways, today we're going to be talking about rehabilitation, which really, if you think about the words, rehabituation is a better way of looking at it. And I've spent a long time in the rehab community, and I don't mean drug rehab community. I mean in the orthopedic rehabilitation community, which is bone and joint pain. A lot of people have some sort of orthopedic issue, meaning as broadly in the broad scope of just pain in general. We will, at some point in our exercise and life experience, have some sort of back, hip, knee, shoulder pain. That is to be expected, right? So if you're in a place where you have pain, don't feel like you're going to be here forever. I think it's very important with pain management coaching to understand that everything is temporary. Everything is temporary, including the pain, including what you're going through right now. But what we want to do, and the goal of this lecture and the goal that has been all week, is we're looking at ways that we can minimize the probability of having such an orthopedic incident. Meaning, how can I do things every single day to decrease my chance of having pain? It is very common for people to start exercising and after a few short weeks or a month or 2 months to start developing pain. And when I mean pain, I mean acute pain right in the joint, things of these nature. Not necessarily soreness, that's something to be expected. I'm talking about joint pain, back, like in the muscle, deep, maybe not agonizing, but debilitating, annoying, frustrating. So what we've been looking at is, okay, what is causing pain? And this is when I was preparing the notes today. What we're looking at, right, is we're looking at three factors. You know me and my threes. I always got everything three. Three factors, right? For all, and let's just jump right in the material, okay? For all orthopedic issues, there exists a cause, right? There is some sort of cause of the pain. Pain is really just a signal that something is out of alignment, that there's too much accumulation of stress, that there is something that needs to be addressed in the body. The causes, folks, are infinite and extremely complicated. So if you have the desire to figure out the cause, I would highly recommend working with someone personally, someone you trust, someone that's educated, someone that has done this in the past. I can give you generalized causes, which are sort of the next piece, but that aspect of it, I wouldn't even start with there, but I want to understand that there is a cause. There always is a reason, but it's complicated. Anyways, so with any sort of pain, we're going over three things, is there's a cause, right? But then there is compensation, and this is where we start to amalgamate and everyone starts to come together in our compensation for pain. And compensation, essentially what that means in terms of exercises, there are things that I do, we'll call them misfirings, during my exercise program, even during my daily life, that I'm compensating for pain. It's that slight twist of the hip to avoid the back pain. It's that slight caving of the knee to avoid that little twist. It's the stopping the shoulder just short enough. There's all these little tiny compensation patterns that we go through, and that's where we will start essentially once we dive in here in a few minutes of what we can do to minimize the compensation, also address and understand where the compensation comes from, but we can address how can I overcome my own compensation, overcome my compensation patterns. So essentially, folks, if you're joining us, we are talking about how to improve our joint mechanics, also how to decrease the chance of having an orthopedic incident. I'm using a lot of science words. Really, we're trying to be like, okay, how can I move and how can I get out of pain? How can I stay out of pain? How can I exercise consistently and not have to go through pain? So all pain has a cause. All pain has a compensation, right? It is subconscious, folks. You may not be aware of your compensation patterns, but I assure you they do exist. They do exist, and when we dive in today, we're going to be understanding how we can look at those and essentially how we can fix them. Okay? And the last piece is the cure, of course. 3 C's, got to have my alliterations. You also know how much I love alliterations. The cure, folks. I do not believe, right, in pain management. It is a science. It's actually a doctoral. You can actually get your PhD and such things. I always and will forever believe in a cure. And a cure is a permanent, lasting solution with the complete elimination of pain in general. Can we be free of pain in our life? And the answer is absolutely we can. Absolutely we can. And that, my friends, is and should be the goal, or the number one goal of your exercise program, is how can I cure any pain that I'm having? Now, before we dive into the material, what I have prepared for us, there is, and go ahead, you can ask questions, folks. You want to ask questions, go ahead and ask questions. I want to address, or I want to talk about that goal, right? Because there's a lot of people out there that don't have any pain. They're like, Coach, no pain, I'm good, I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing. Great. However, that does not mean you do not have compensation techniques. It does not mean that we are not working towards some sort of, let's call it negative occurrence or negative incident, which is, I mean, kind of like this very negative frame mindset, but I'm just being honest. But what's cool and what's positive is when we learn, and we're going to learn these things in a second, when we learn proper exercise principles, right, movement mechanics, we not only will essentially decrease the chance of having pain, our fitness is going to increase. Because if you've ever had any sort of joint pain, you understand that like it's just very debilitating, it's very discouraging, it's frustrating, and it can be a big setback. So what's cool about this kind of work is we're going to understand how to not get there. We're going to understand how we can continually improve ourselves, so keep going with our fitness plans and stay out of pain. And as I said a little earlier, that should be the number one priority of everyone's exercise program. And it sort of goes into the medical practice, right, of first do no harm. So nothing you should be doing should having pain. All right, so let's go ahead. Let's dive right into the material. So I talked about causes. And the cause of pain can be quite complex. And the reason is just lifestyle, right? Also, everyone has sort of a different history. Snowboarding accident when I was 16, or I had MCL surgery when I was 20, or there's all these different reasons for, let's say, some sort of joint pain. So as a practitioner, you go into what's called a diagnostic, and you get a whole elaborate history to try to figure these things out. Like I said, that's a little bit hard to do on a large scale. So I would advise you to find someone that you trust, that you know is educated and well versed in these things. But you really only need to do a complete diagnostic history if the pain is egregious. So if you're having really bad back pain, really bad knee pain, then you're going to need to dive into all of the causes of what's going on. I would say between 70 and 85% of us are not in this scope of pain where we need to really address the cause. Essentially, we want to look at what are called compensations. So that's going to be the bulk of today, is looking at compensations and looking at ways to eliminate them. And then essentially what that's going to do is it's going to strengthen your body to a point where you're going to be feeling good. You're going to be feeling strong. You're going to be feeling positive about the way your fitness goes. And the first, it's three things, of course. You guys know the threes. The first thing with compensation is that an exercise program, right, a healthy body does not begin and end with a workout. It's not I step into a workout and now all of a sudden I turn on the green lights and I'm going to start feeling it and posture and all these things. While you do that, that's important, but it's also what you do throughout the day. Because think about it, like realistically, you probably exercise between 30 minutes and an hour, 3-4 times a week. There's 126 hours in a week, so there's a lot of other hours you're doing other things. And the way the body works is it accumulates stress, right? It accumulates what essentially gravitational force, but it accumulates, patterns, sitting, standing, bending, twisting. And if we only focus on these patterns for that short, brief window of exercise, it's going to be very difficult to fix our compensations. So if you go ahead and watch the YouTube videos, what I was talking about is there are ways we can behave, essentially things we can do during the day to make sure we're minimizing our compensations. First is, and very foremost, is picking things up off the ground. It's extremely common, and it's extremely commonly done wrong. And that's not that you're doing it wrong, it's just that we don't know. So a way to improve that, and if you go back and watch the videos, is just starting to understand how to start to bend your knees, right? Classic warehouse lifting 101. Also keeping the spine straight. Because what happens is the more that we flex or round our back, the more that our spine is going to accumulate stress, and you're building this compensation of, it's easier to just fold at the waist and bend my back than it is to bend my knees. Agreed. But long term, that's going to set you back. So that's one way, that's one compensation pattern, and that's the one I start with most people because I see a lot of injuries that come from just people hurting their backs, picking things up. It's extremely common, and that's okay. But this also extends to what's called ADLs, activities of daily life. And those are your cleaning, right? Your gardening, you're picking things up, moving around the house, grabbing groceries, moving in the store. These patterns, we also develop compensations, which are just habits of folding at the waist, habits of bending and twisting, habits of rotating. So, and what I addressed this week too is when we go to grab anything, we want to have our shoulders square on it, right? If I'm going to reach for something right here, I want it directly in front of me. You don't want to be bending and twisting. You don't want to be turning and twist, right? So always square up, always point your toes, always point your shoulders at what you're going to grab. The more that you bend your knees, going to the next part, the more that you bend your knees, the more success you're going to have, just in general, right? Use your legs, bend your knees. And the reason we don't is because we want to avoid loading the legs. But if you don't load the legs, you load the spine. So a really, really, really powerful way is to just start bending your knees for folks. Start bringing yourself and your stomach to the ground as opposed to folding at the waist. And you've heard me say this multiple times this week, but it is that important. And just doing that, right, is going to increase the likelihood of you having a great workout program pain-free. Now, you'll get people that go, well, coach, I have knee pain. I have knee pain. Well, looking at singular joint, looking at knee is, how am I bending my knees? Are my heels coming up? Am I pushing my knees in front of my toes? Am I essentially putting a lot of pressure on my knees? And without getting like super in depth with how the biomechanics works, is really what you can do if you're having knee pain is bend your knees, but push your hips back, and only go as far as you don't have knee pain. And for most people, you're going to be surprised how much depth you have. And for even more people, as you practice, the stronger your legs will get. You'll actually decrease the amount of knee pain that you're having, because a lot of times knee pain just comes from compensation patterns, excessively loading the knee, pushing the knee past the toes, walking on the toes, twisting at the hip and at the ankle, and things of this nature. So another one, and still kind of compensation, is I want to, when I'm reaching overhead, same thing, I want to be directly lined up, directly in front of me and grabbing it. Always square in the shoulders, toes are always pointing forward. Go ahead and ask questions, folks, if you have questions. So those are some compensation things. Those are things you can do throughout the day. Now, while you're exercising, most of you do have the concern of I want to have proper form, and form essentially can be defined by maximizing my stabilizing mechanics, so maximizing my stabilizer muscles to decrease joint load. So just protecting joints. Point of form, protecting joints. That's the whole point. So having good form means you're protecting your joints, you're strengthening your joints. It's important to have that during exercise. It's important to have that during your life too. And I know one of the biggest objections is, oh coach, it sounds like a lot of thinking. And it's not necessarily a lot of thinking as much as it is just like a little bits of awareness. So like today, when you're going out, you're going to grab some groceries off the floor, bend your knees, right? Drop your hips. When you're, essentially going to reach for the cupboard overhead, and hopefully not for the cookies, no, I'm just kidding. And reach overhead, turn your shoulders, look straight, reach straight up and grab it, little bits of awareness. These things add up, and the reason is, as I said before, you're moving throughout the day much, much longer than you are working out. So a lot of the stress and pain that we're accumulating is coming from our daily movements, not necessarily from our exercise programs. And if we only use our exercise programs as the time to health and strengthen our joints, we're going to be limited. And I want to see you guys be extremely successful. And I'll tell you a little secret. The more that you practice awareness and conscious movement and bending the knees and picking things up, you're actually going to get stronger than you would just exercising. Because, Wolff's Law, bones adapt to the forces applied on them. So if I'm always applying these aligned forces, I'm actually going to be building a strong structure. Therefore, cleaning, taking care of the kids, all of a sudden this becomes part of my fitness and health program. Interesting, right? So the more that we have that conscious awareness, that should motivate you enough to try to practice that. And that's how we want to deal with compensation, is just being consciously aware and implementing simple mechanics that we can do on a regular basis. And then the last piece is the cure, right? So the cure, let me just finish that review. So for the compensation patterns, right, we got three things. One is I want to be squared up. I want to bend my knees as much as I can when I go to the floor, right? I want to have my toes facing squared up. When I'm reaching, grabbing things, I want to have my shoulders aligned. Everything's right in front of me, right down the center line. Those are two things. And the third part is being consciously aware of the movements. Just little check-ins, folks. It's not you have to walk around like perfect posture all day. And then, so the final piece talking about the cure is it's binary. There's two parts of the cure, right? So to be completely pain-free, one is, like I said, the movement aspect, and that's everything I have addressed thus far. That essentially is my specialty. I'm not sure what that beeping noise was over there. Probably means my Instagram live. Anyway, so let me just look real quick. Oh, nice. Oh, that's pretty good. Beast mode. Sorry, Instagram. You guys were staring at the wall the entire time. I love it. All right, anyways. So what I was talking about. Cause, more complex. Compensation, three things. Square, reaching overhead, bending knees, and being aware of the movement. And the last piece is the cure, and the cure is binary, right? So the cure is we have our proper form, we have our activities of daily life, we have our movements and such. Very, extremely powerful and extremely potent. And a lot of you can go extremely long way by just changing these mechanics. And it does require, you guys can totally do it. I believe in it, absolutely. I've seen it a bazillion times. It really, really does work. So that's the first part. And that is more concerned with the external, sort of the structural, bone, joint, how forces are coming in, how forces are transferred inside. And the other aspect, and you're like, wait a minute, where's he going with this? The other aspect, indeed, folks, is inflammation. So if you're not familiar with inflammation, you've probably heard the word thrown around, but inflammation is just really defined as heat and stress. And stress just means my ability to deform, so change a malleable substance. So if something can be changed, let's say like silly putty, and I go, I'm stressing the silly putty out, right? And I'm actually transferring force, I'm creating heat to change its shape. So our body works pretty much exclusively through inflammatory cycles. Now this doesn't mean that, how can I say this? Inflammation isn't bad, folks. It's necessary. It's the only way to create change, right? But, as the law of diminishing returns, if you exceed a certain level of inflammation, right, and you have more and more inflammation, you're going to start having inflammatory disorders, number one of which we're focusing on is pain. So all pain, all joint pain is a function of an inflammatory process. And if we can decrease our levels of inflammation, our likelihood of experiencing pain is a lot lower. And that's sort of one of the big cures is, okay, I've already improved my movement mechanics, I'm maxing out, why am I still having pain? It's probably because my inflammation levels are high. And how you can combat inflammation, folks, this is probably one of the most important topics in nutrition, if not the most important topic of nutrition, because inflammation, systemic inflammation, high levels of chronic inflammation is indeed the lead cause of death. It is the reason that people have heart attacks, right? The laundry list is insanely long, and it's only getting longer. Now they're looking at, okay, is mental illness a part of an inflammatory cycle, right? Or these other things that we previously had thought were not part of inflammation cycles are. So what I want to give you today in just the live coaching is like, we need to start addressing like our inflammatory properties of life, which kind of go into our chronic movements. The three biggest ones are nutrition, which I'm not even going to go there. We went there last week. The second one, and this one actually might surprise you, the second leading cause of inflammation is actually adrenaline in the form of excitement and joy. It's sort of an untapped aspect of life right now, but like getting extremely excited, all these things like that's actually driving inflammation up. But more on that. That's a totally different thing. I'm just saying you have your inflammatory stress from nutrition, you have your inflammatory stress from an adrenal response associated with joy, and then the other one I think you can guess is just stress in general. Mostly we call cognitive stress or ruptured thinking, improper thinking, cognitive distortion, whatever you want to call it. That is also a big form of stress. Now, the easiest one to control is nutrition. However, nutrition is the never-ending battle, and that's not the topic of today. 2 is, okay, my levels of excitement and joy. This is something that you should be pursuing, you should be activating, but it's something to be aware of. Like, am I overstressing? Am I always going to, well, right now coronavirus, but am I always trying to indulge in these joyful things and like bringing my inflammation levels super high? That can cause a problem. And last piece is stress, and we're going to be actually diving into stress next week, talking about stress defense, ways to lower what's called cognitive load. So the amount of thinking that goes on, how to lower, sugar. yeah, sugar, that's definitely the number one inflammatory. Number one inflammatory food is alcohol, but number two is sugar. And some people are like, alcohol is sugar. Yeah, it's different. Anyways, true. And then, so next week we're going to be looking at stress defense in ways that we can lower cognition. Now, I'm not your therapist. Thank God I'm not your therapist. You wouldn't want me as a therapist. We're going to be looking at what's called somatic experiencing. So using our bodies, because I believe in scope of practice, staying with the scope of practice, using our bodies to decrease our levels of cognitive load. And it's really as simple as, and I'm going to go back full circle here in a minute. It's really as simple as the runner's high, right? I'm stressed out, I go for a run, I get in that rhythm, bang, 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 bang. Cognitive load decreases because I'm having this somatic experience of breathing and running and tempo and these things like this. After, I feel less stressed. Boom. That would be an example of a somatic experience. There are actually ways that are a lot easier than running. I know how much people love running, sarcasm. I know how much people don't like running. So there are ways to do that. So when looking at the cure for pain, and mostly I've been discussing today is how can I improve my movement mechanics so I'm not increasing excess loading on my joints. That's the number one way. That's the best way. That's the way I want you guys to focus on from this is like, okay, I'm going to essentially improve my loading mechanics, something I can do right away. If you didn't see what the ways to, you can go back in this video when I post on YouTube, rewind. And two, obviously control the inflammation levels. And the only reason I even brought up inflammation is this would not be a complete lecture. This wouldn't be a complete fun experience of Facebook Live where we're learning lots of cool stuff if I didn't bring up inflammation. I wouldn't be doing you guys a service saying that like, okay, if I just have perfect loading mechanics, my pain's going to go away. It's not true. You got to lower inflammation. So if you guys got questions, go ahead and ask. But I'm just going to recap here for people where we're looking at rehabilitating and we're looking at rehabituating, so recreating habits. I don't want you guys to wait till you have horrible pain to start working on your movement habits. And so when you're looking at rehabilitation, you're looking at improving your movement habits. You're looking at why do I have pain? First, it's important to, even if you don't have pain, you should be doing these things. Because if you continue to exercise vigorously, if you continue to pursue your high-level fitness goals, the chances of you getting hurt increases rapidly if you do not implement strategies to protect yourself. That's all it is. You can totally do it. It's actually not that complicated. And that's sort of the point of having good form. Exercise does. No excuses. That's good. That's good. It's true. It's true. And so what we can do, and so that, I mean, boom, causes. So, and then going into like pain management, pain assessment, what causes that? You have your causes, folks, which is like sort of a more in-depth history. I do not encourage you to look at your causes unless your pain is egregious, and then I would actually recommend getting a professional to help you. But we can look at, like I said, compensations. What are my movement patterns? What are my activities of daily life? Like, and I just 3 things of, all right, number 1, I'm gonna bend my knees more to get to the ground. I'm gonna bend, I'm gonna get down and bring my hips down. It is more work for the legs, but it's better for your body. 2 is, I'm gonna start looking at how am I squared up on objects. I want to be facing objects on my shoulders square, reaching overhead, reaching in front. I don't want to be doing a lot of twisting and reaching and grabbing over these things. And in order to do those, the third part is conscious awareness, just being more aware of your movement patterns. I know, right? Yeah, thanks, man. You too, bro. Take care. I'll see you. And what we're looking at is like, okay, boom. What can I do right now? And this goes into the third piece of the cure is like, just start working on your movement. I'm just like raising awareness essentially for the fact that like, we can spend all this time doing corrective exercise, doing massage, doing physical therapy, paying quite literally thousands and thousands of dollars to block out short periods of time where we improve our body. But if you take more awareness, which you can do, it's super easy, and start to improve your movements during the day, the amount of pain and relief that you will experience, the amount of pain you will experience, the amount of relief and strength that you will experience will just increase. It'll just boost you up super high. And the reason I bring this is I've spent a lot of time in corrective exercise communities. I spent a lot of money doing these things. And I realized like, if I do all this therapy work and then I go out and I'm doing the same bending, the same twisting, the same poor movement, the same reaching overhead, I'm essentially going backwards. But if I start to work on my movement, work on my awareness, bending my knees, squaring up, I'm actually going to use, not only will I decrease pain, I'm actually going to get stronger throughout the day. And one of my big secrets, folks, is that I consciously try to work on my body and posture throughout the day, random periods of time. I guess that would be another subject for another thing. But it's I won't even go there. But that's the message of today. That's kind of wrapping up the entire week. If you want to learn some of these things, go ahead, go on my YouTube page. I posted 5 videos this week, all talking about ways to improve our daily movement mechanics. I did things such as like how you can sweep better to not hurt your back, how to use your hips, how to use your feet. I did a live coaching with my mom yesterday to kind of see these things in action. I do highly encourage you to take the time. They're all 5-6 minutes. Just take the time, watch a few, maybe watch one, and then just try it. That's all it is. It's a low level of commitment, folks. And the thing is, once you start to do it, you will see results and you will be more motivated. I know that's an issue with a lot of people. How do I get more motivated? And my recommendation, sort of coming off topic, coming full circle, is I can stay motivated by inquiring small pieces of knowledge daily or weekly, and then implementing those small pieces of knowledge. Not binging and watching a bunch of YouTube videos and then trying to change everything. Take one piece, implement one piece, see one piece of progress, and that'll start the momentum cycle going. I know a lot of us want to do the full revolutionary cycle. Today's my day to be super hit and healthy, chicken salads and 5,000 push-ups. Yeah, there you go. 5,000 push-ups today is my day. Be careful, folks. Small pieces, small changes. Watch one video, implement that strategy, and then start to build yourself up. So I do appreciate you guys. It's been an interesting week here at You'll Be Fit Forever. A lot of changes coming our way. I am just trying to essentially gather as much feedback as possible. I have gotten a lot of good feedback. Haven't gotten so much negative feedback. I enjoy negative feedback. I know that's weird, but these are your workouts. These are your coachings. I want to know what you guys think. I want to know what you guys want to learn about. I'm essentially picking the lessons based on the community and the issues that have come up. And the whole reason that I did this whole week of rehabilitation was I had multiple people, multiple amount of times talking about, I got hip pain, I got back pain, and they're wanting to know, what am I doing wrong? What am I doing wrong? And I'm like, hey, look, it's not what you're doing anything wrong. It's that we're just not being aware of the movement. That's kind of what happened here. And then next week, and it hasn't been coming up a lot, is just stress. Coach, how do I lower stress? I'm stressed out, I'm panicked, I'm fearful, all these things. And like I said, without going outside my scope of practice, we can start to address these things because it is important to understand that your body is the gateway to having a healthy mind. Think about that for a second. So with that, I guess a couple of announcements. I'm doing this live every Saturday, 9 o'clock. I may change the time, I might do 8:30. I'm just experimenting. I will let you guys know. Right now it's 9 o'clock. Will continue to post the YouTube videos. I'm in the process of launching the website. We're going to launch that. It looks like June 1st, and it will just be an organization of all the workouts for you guys. So they're all on YouTube. It'll just be one-stop shop. Boom, right through the workouts. And also, I'm thinking of putting the lessons. Right now, I'm just doing the work. Right now, it'll just be the workouts, but eventually, we're gonna have the lessons. And we're looking at July 4th for the official launch of the subscription website, to which you guys will be able to subscribe, receive the videos, receive the courses, receive all the information, but also have access to a private community of people that are like-minded and your peers that can help us not only stay motivated, but to encourage each other, reach out, get some new advice, get a different look on things. It's going to be in a very, very fun and powerful process, and it's going to be a learning curve. And I'll just end with this too. This has come up also a lot, is I understand a lot of you, most people that I'm working with, I've met in person, I've worked with in person, and yes, of course, working in person is going to be better. However, that's not really an option right now. But also, moving forward in the process, folks, like working with me in person is extremely expensive. Most people can't afford it. That's one. Two is, I can't be there every single day, right? I can't have access to you. It's just not possible. So with the videos and the online content, you're going to have access to this information, your knowledge, whenever you want, all the time, right? And then three is like, I want you, and this is sort of like a coach's thing, not really like this isn't a sales technique, but I want you guys to be accountable. Like, I want you guys to have what's called efficacy. So, like, be able to engage in your programming without me. Because, like, look, I'm not going to be here forever, right? But you're going to have continually out through your life. You might move to Texas, right? So you're not going to be able to work with me in person, but you can take these videos with you, start to build personal efficacy, start to build your own programs, your own routines, and your own knowledge. And that's the whole point, folks. Like, if you want to be fit forever, you can't rely on just one coach. So I know, miss you guys too. It's not that I don't enjoy doing in person. It's not that we won't go back to doing things in person. I'm just saying that, you know, with the power of technology and the way that everything is developed, like this is an amazing tool that we have. Like let's use it. Let's like take advantage of it. And yeah, let's look forward to the other and evolutionary processes of in person and et cetera, et cetera. But like, let's take advantage of the time we have now and like learn and invest and build ourselves up, because realistically, there are people that are getting better results with these videos than training with me in person. All right, so little clip there. You know, really, and I'm ending. This is, I'm at time. We're just looking at like, oh, folks, this is it right here. And this, you'll always have this information. It'll always be there for you. You can take it wherever you want. And I'll just end with saying, especially rehabilitation, is the laws of exercise are immutable, meaning unchanged laws. So once you learn these things, once you learn the proper principles, they will not change. You can use them forever. Okay, so with that, it's Saturday, I'm off. I will be back on Monday for 5 whole new workouts. Really do appreciate you guys. If you have questions, comments, anything, feel free to message me here on Facebook or on Instagram. I do reply to all the messages, though I do get a lot of messages, so it does take me a while, but I will get back to you, I promise you that. And with that, let's have an amazing weekend. It's Memorial Day, woo, party, woo, party, okay? So, let's see, last but not least, I'm working on my sign-offs. Like I said, appreciate you guys. Really looking forward to next week. I think we're starting a powerful movement. This has been an amazing process. I'm looking forward to working with you in the future in person and then in the future online. Okay? So with that, take care.